Нет, счет
Hi, welcome to our piano improvisation lesson. In this lesson, we're gonna learn what notes is more suitable to play on what chord. So, example, on the last lesson, we played the C, D, E and E, F, G. So, some of you might think, hey, it sounds a bit weird, or some of you might think, hey, it sounds good. All this thing is very individual. There's no correct or wrong, so it's just like your preference. So, today let's do some exercise. I hope you still remember what is chord. A C chord, a D minor chord, E minor chord, F chord, G chord, and an O. So this is an E minor chord, or the F chord, and the G chord, or the A minor chord. Holding the chord on the left hand in the bottom range, it sounds a bit heavy and not clear. Let's try to make everything a bit octave higher. So you just hold the chord and then play 4 bars of improvisation. Example. So you just try to hold the chords and play for 4 count and then play one more time for 4 counts. So which means you have 8 counts and you play 2 times of the semi-brief, which means a 4 count. So example. So you can see, hey, you might think, hey, this sounds good. So you can keep all the notes like the 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5 of C major chord. So let's try on the D minor chord. So you might think the C note, it doesn't really fit, or the G note, it doesn't really fit. Of course, some of you might think it's fit. If you don't like the notes, you can skip the notes, or you don't land on the notes for so long. Just take it as a passing line. So you just do something like that. Just don't hold the notes for too long. So you can do the same thing on E minor chord. Improvise freely and become a true improvisation.
Years ago, and they are now more common, and people are talking about these things in the zeitgeist more. Also, I'm assuming more and more people are waking up because there is some sort of great shift happening, correct?
Yes, and the people that are asleep, it's, they have a big role too, because they're triggering the people that want to awaken. They're, when people trigger you, like you hear that a lot, like somebody upset me, somebody, that's their role, is so that you'll be motivated to change and go within. So everybody that is triggering you is a gift as well, because it forces you to go in and not need anything outside of yourself. So that's what the awakening is like, it's realizing that you don't need anything outside yourself, because you are everything. So you stop seeking validation for love outside of yourself, and you give that love to yourself. And as you give that love to yourself, you expand your consciousness, and then that to all the universe.
Now, I understood that from my studies of Saint Germain that he lived for hundreds of years, and kept kind of showing up in people,
Right.
when they were kids, and and they grew up together, and then he just stayed around the same age for, I forgot how many hundreds of years, but a while, enough that he was kind of legendary about it. And I guess at that time you could do something like that. You could just move from place to place, stay at a certain age range, and have that kind of not royal, but status in society, and be able to jump around like that. He's a fascinating figure.
He
Fascinating.
is,
Very
yeah.
fascinating historical figure, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. So let me ask you, can we Can we ask Saint Germain a few questions?
Sure, sure, yeah.
Do I ask the question first,
Yeah,
or
you can start with a question, yeah.
okay? How do you raise your consciousness?
Okay. Oh yes, welcome. I'm Saint Germain. We welcome you.
Welcome.
I just have to go deeper, so it'll just take me a second. Oh yes, welcome, Alex. We welcome you. How would one raise your state of consciousness? This is the question. This is the question. How would one raise your state of consciousness? We would say that on your journey, on your path, on planet Earth, you are all experiencing vibration. You are here to experience vibration. You are here to experience the polarities. You are here to experience the vibrational frequencies that are on planet Earth. You are all energy. And as you are on your journey of awakening, as you are on your journey of expanding, it is about going in. You are all causing a separation because you have a separation of frequencies. The universe is striving to be whole, and all of your life you have been giving love outside of yourself. You will be in service your whole life. I will do this to please my mother. I will do this to please my teacher. I will do this to please my boss. I will get married and have children, and I will take care of the children, and I will please my husband, and so on and so forth. This causes you to separate from yourself. It is about going back in and finding yourself again. You have caused a separation in the universe by mastering loving everyone outside of yourself. But why is everyone else's spirit more important than yours? Why is everyone else more important than you? Why are you pleasing others and not loving yourself? This is the inner child. The inner child is feeling abandoned by many, and it is causing a separation in the universe when you give that love to everyone else, but you are consciousness also. It is about going in, and when you go in and begin to give that love to yourself, you will expand out, and the universe will become whole again. You have all lost your way on finding the consciousness within yourself. It is by going in, and as you go in and recognize the God within you, or the universe within you, whatever terminology you use, as you recognize.
And there's a lot more support growing by the day because part of the going faster, it was fueled by things like, for example, the internet, where there's a lot more connection, worldwide connection, global connection, collective connection, where you're having more and more souls going, that's not okay, that needs to change.
How you doing, Yolanda?
Hi. Thanks for having me, Alex, onto your show.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm excited to talk to you and the entity that you channel as well on the show. As you know, you've been watching our channel for a little while now, and I love channels. I think they're fascinating. I think I have good friends with some channels, and it's just fascinating, the whole process of channeling, and people always ask me, is it real? Is it not real? Are they acting? And I always say the same thing. Is what they're saying hitting you?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And I really believe that. How can you tell the difference between a really good channeler versus someone who's maybe making it up? Is if you close your eyes and you actually feel when they're talking, like just sit there and close your eyes. A really good channeler, there's like an energy coming off of the message, and you can really feel it. And whereas someone who's maybe new at it or having a lot of their own personality or ego getting in the way, it just kind of, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't expand you. It doesn't kind of make you feel a little bit more uplifted or energy moving through you or like, what's going on? You feel it. When a channeler channels, you really feel it. And something's going on there.
There's something happening. A lot of times when I'm with interviewing channels, even on Zoom, you feel it. You feel the energy, and people feel it when they watch it on YouTube.
Absolutely.
There's something going on a lot of times, and some are stronger than others, and some are different.
Absolutely.
Everyone channels differently. I have, like Paul Selig, who whispers himself, which is just fascinating.
Yeah.
Daryl, who you are a fan of, Daryl Anka, and how he does his thing, and so many others. So I do love channels, and I'm excited to talk to you. So my first question to you is, what was your life like before this insanity that is channeling came into your life?
Yeah. Well, for years I thought it was insanity, but I loved it at the same time. So I kind of kept that insanity part to myself.
Yes.
My life was pretty typical life. I wasn't, it's not like I was a little girl and I was seeing, had imaginary friends and saw people in my room. I had none of this spiritual stuff happening. Although that being said, I do come from, on my mother's line, a very highly intuitive family, but it was never spoken about. And it wasn't exactly like they told me anything or taught me anything or talked about it. I mean, there's a few little incidents with my mother over the years where it's like, how did you know that? But, how did you know a truck was coming in to move out of the way before the truck came around the corner? Like, little things, right? Like, happened, but we just thought, oh, well, that was lucky. So my life was pretty normal up until I was in university. And I was living away in Vancouver for university, and I was... A friend of mine was throwing a party, and she'd invited a psychic, and I was like, psychic? Ooh, that's weird, because the other part of my life growing up that I forgot to mention is I grew up in a very Pentecostal household. Now, this is my father, right? Father's line. Dad would go to church on Sundays. Mom was like, oh, do we have to? It was one of those situations. Sure. So obviously I'd had all of this Bible, Jesus stuff, the psychic stuff is the devil. So here I am going, ooh, psychic, scary, ooh. But then there was a part of me going, but I want to know. So I sit down in front of this psychic when I'm like, my third year of university. And she's like, oh, you're highly intuitive, and, you've got these abilities, and this is your life. And here I am trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. I'm doing this arts degree, and I don't know what I want to do with my life, and what am I supposed to do? And here this is what you're going to be doing with your life. And I'm like, really? This? And she said, one day you're going to be sitting in my chair telling people how intuitive they are and how gifted they are. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, and it was like a light switch flicked on, and I was like, oh, I am intuitive. This is real. Like, it's just like, it was like the lights came on and I just saw it. And it's like, that was it. My life had never been the same ever since.
So the light turned on, but you didn't just start channeling at that point?
No, that came about 3 years later.
So what was that like? I always loved asking that question. Like, the first time you hear a voice.
Yeah. I know, right?
You think you're going crazy at this point, I'm imagining.
Exactly. So up to that point, I mean, she said, you got a couple of spirit guides, and I was like, oh yeah, and I could feel them pretty shortly after. Mm-hmm. So I'd been feeling them, but then I bought this book. I'd pretty, like, straight after university, I actually moved overseas to Japan, and I was teaching English in Japan, and the only online bookstore was Amazon Japan, and I was looking at spiritual books because I really wanted to learn more, and there was only about 50 you could get, and one of them was a book on channeling. And I was like, hey, that looks interesting. I don't know, I'll just buy that. And I was doing it, and then in comes this guide and starts talking to me in my head, the voice in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh. And this actually was really nice and amazing, but also terrifying. And the reason it was terrifying is because also growing up, my mother's sister had a severe case of schizophrenia, where growing up, Auntie comes for Christmas, and the voices in my head are telling me this nice thing. The voices in my head are being really mean today, and they just want me to go, do this horrible thing. And so she was very not well, but there was always growing up this, if you hear voices, it means you're not well. And like Auntie, and we hope that no one else in the family becomes like Auntie. So the whole voices thing was like, oh, I'm hearing voices. Accent, tone, male, female, the whole thing. I got it loud and clear. So I'm having this man talk to me, having this whole conversation, and I'm like, but it's not scary. He's not mean. It's actually, I was just bathed in love. So I was like, oh, this is great. And shortly after that, I was like, it became clear. He's like, well, let's work together. I'm here to help you. And so I, meet up with a friend, and they ask a question, and can you tune in, Yolanda? And then he'd come, and before, it didn't take long, and it was just, he was coming in, and the messages were just being pushed straight through me, and it was like, this is great, this is fun, and it actually felt like that. He'd come in, and the message would just literally get pushed out, and I'd be sort of saying it, but it was my voice, but it was his energy.
Did you remember it, or do you, like, what happens when it's happening? Are you like on the side, or what do you have?
Yeah, it kind of would start out as like I'd hear him come in, and he'd say this, and I'd be like, oh, he's coming in and he's saying this, and he's quite excited. I could feel I could hear the tone, and then it was like he'd just come right in and like kind of take over without taking over, because it was still, at this point I was only channeling, and the difference between channeling and voice channeling, which came later, is that it was still my voice, and it was still sort of my expression, but it was like, it's just sort of saying the words instead of me hearing it first and then repeating it. It was like, okay, I'm just gonna let it flow, and then out it would flow, right? So that went on for about 6 months or a year, and at one point he's like, it's almost like I don't know what happened, but it was flowing, and then it's like he just jumped inside. And I just kind of went out of the way. It's like, pushed to the side, came in fully, and then my voice changed, my face changed, my accent changed, and then he started talking through me, and I'm like, whoa, what was that? That was so cool. You know what I mean? And
like Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And I was like, and of course I was with some friends, and
they freaked out.
What did you just do? What was that? That was amazing. And I'm like, I have to do that again. I have to do that again. So
you're so excited. I love the excitement of this whole story. It's just like, and then this happened, and I was so excited.
Yeah, but you have to realize, I'm in Hong Kong at this point, and I had met some amazing spiritual friends. I found my community. We were all kind of like-minded, and we're all trying to just figure out who we are and what we do, and really develop ourselves. So of course they're just as excited as I am, and I'm like, what was that? That was amazing. Can you do it again? Do it again. So we organized a night, and I was like, okay, I gotta know what this is. And so I brought in, and who came in this time? It wasn't that same guide. It was Archangel Michael. And he came in fully and took over, and I sat on that sofa and channeled him for 6 hours straight, while my friends fired off every question they had at me. And it was just like, at the end of it, I was like, whoa, this is real.
Did you feel,
this is amazing.
Do you feel weakened, or do you feel strengthened by it?
Well, after that 6 hour channel fest, I didn't sleep for 3 days.
You were wired.
I was wired, and like just too much energy, and it was just too much. And after that, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never channeling for 6 hours straight.
Too much.
I do now, but with breaks. But it took years to build up to a point where it doesn't wire me, because that's the thing. You get wired, and then you get exhausted, right? And it's been finding that balance, because it does energize you, but then if you do too much, it just depletes you. So
it's like a battery. You just can't take too much electricity. If you
Exactly. There's a lot of electricity that comes through, and for some people there's more than others. It just depends on, like the person sitting in front of me, and what we're doing. So it's fascinating, because for some people it does energize them, and for some people it does deplete them. But this isn't something people can do full time. It's not like you can just channel 40 hours a week.
Right, it's a bit much. Yeah, from what I understand, it is a bit much. But
it's a bit much.
So when did you? So now you're channeling, and you're with your friends. At what point do you come out of the spiritual closet?
Oh, see, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, because this is a thing that clears the room.
Yeah. Because, when you've got a father who's like channeling, well, he didn't even know what channeling was, but, that's the devil, exorcisms, that's what they did to people like me. So
they would have burned you at the stake. They would have burned you at the stake. Let's just put that.
Well, that's exactly it. And I'm like, well, I'm not telling my dad. And of course, then you have your mom. My mom's side, like, what? You're hearing voices? What? Are you like your aunt? That worry would have come in. I'm like, well, I can't tell my mom. And well, thank goodness I'm living in Asia, where they're far away and they don't have to know what's going on in my life. So I kept it secret for years.
For years, so you were in the closet for years.
I was fully in the closet for years, and I was comfortable in the closet, and I was happy in the closet because I could just do my spiritual thing with my spiritual friends, and no one had to know about it. Because to be honest, a part of me for a long time judged this channeling. I loved it, but it was also really weird, and I didn't want to be the person who did the weird thing. I wanted to be the person who did something more normal, like healing or psychic or mediumship, something that was just a little bit more acceptable.
I love that. I love all that, like psychics or mediums, normal stuff.
Normal stuff, right? Because at the same time, this was my passion. I was, teaching English and again, doing this, what am I going to do with my life? And what am I going to be? Because I'm not about to come out of the closet with this. Like, no way am I going to make this a career. Like, not going to happen. So I was channeling for friends and going, yeah, okay, I can do this weird channeling thing, but I that's just the thing I do. I really want to become more of this other thing, and yet they kept coming to me like, can you just channel some guidance for me? Please, please. And I'm like, okay, I'll do the channeling thing again, and I was working on it and developing it, but it was like, it was my passion, but I was also rejecting it for years. So it was really only, so that was kind of like this story. It was really only when I had my son about 9 years ago when it kicked into the next level. But anyway, the point is, I really took it seriously after that. And when I was taking it seriously, I remember asking another channeler that I was seeing, like, how can I take my channeling really to the next level? Like, how can I really develop it? And he's like, you got to start a business. You got to start channeling for others. I'm like, is there anything else I can do? Because it's weird and people will judge me, and it's so weird, this channeling thing. And what about my family? And so I was in the closet for a very, very long time. And interestingly enough, as I was starting to put myself out there, a lot of fears were coming. And the fears were, what if my family finds out? And what if my family finds out? And at one point I'm like, I've got to clear this. Like, I can't hide this from my family forever. Like, this is just ridiculous. And at one point I did, actually, very recently, as in last year. Seriously.
Oh, wow.
Finally, last year, it took me years to get to a point of being ready to really clear this fear, and I did it in little baby steps. But I had that burned at the stake lifetime that came up in a session where it was literally, I was doing whatever I was doing, and my family found out, and my family took me, grabbed me when I came home and put me in the back of the wagon or whatever, and took me into the center where I was just grabbed and burned or hung or whatever. But witchcraft, it was one of those lifetimes where I was burned at the stake, and it was my family that turned me in, and suddenly it made sense. That's why I'm so afraid of my family. It's not just that my auntie is schizophrenic and my dad's side is all Pentecostal. It's that there's a past life here, because honestly my mother, I did actually tell her before this, was fine with it. So you know what I mean? Like, it was these fears that were coming from something older. But it's gone now, and my family are starting to find out what I do slowly.
After this episode, maybe a few more people will know.
Probably. But yeah, people are getting to know, and I do. I had a website and I've put myself out there, and it's been fine. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fear around people finding out what I did, because like I said, I had that judgment that this is weird. I loved it, but I also judged it, and clearing that judgment actually made the channeling get better.
Now, so you mentioned that you two people, Archangel Michael and another being. Who is it, or is it a group that you channel?
Okay, so I've had a very interesting experience with channeling that's a little bit different than a lot of people. Now, a lot of people who've come on your show, like Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, and you had Belinda, who channels the angels, and but they've kind of got their team, and it's been with them for a very long time, and it's not going anywhere. They've got like a contract for that. I've got a very different story because, first it was a guide, then it was Archangel Michael. And then after that, every time I channeled for years, I never knew who was coming through until they came through. So it could have been an angel, it could have been ascended master, it could have been a council. It was like I never knew who was coming in to talk for the person until they showed up. And it's like, oh, hey, we've got this being
But
coming
you do
in.
have the ability. It's your choice to
Yes.
allow them in. It's always your choice.
Yes.
It's not like a possession.
Always your choice.
Yeah,
and they would come in, and I would feel into their energy. Is this a good energy? Maybe not so good energy. And it was, good. Okay, I'll let it in. And they'd introduce themselves, and that was that. But at one point, again, this is after the birth of my son, I kind of went, I'm tired of channeling whoever shows up. Like, why can't I be like Darylenko?
I want my team. I just want my team.
I want my team, mine. That's just mine that, because I guess I had this thing where I saw them as like, oh, well, the person they channel is just so amazing. And I want that. I want someone that can come in. And anyway, so then I just given birth to my son. This was very shortly after. And I'm having a lot of challenges as a mother, and I'm asking, I just want to channel one being, and who comes in? Mother Mary, the Ascended Master, Mother Mary. I'm like, you, but the Christian thing, the church thing, I don't want to channel.
You're not cool, Mother Mary. You're not like,
cool.
You're not
You're not Bashar.
or angels or like, you just Mary, really?
Again, and there was that judgment of like, oh, it's the Jesus stuff all over again, but it wasn't. It really wasn't. In fact, she really helped me through challenges of being a mother with a child that didn't sleep and all of these things. And interestingly, the clients in those days were all mothers themselves. So a lot of the guidance that came in was really helping mothers sort of find their way through motherhood and through life, being a mother with kids. So that went on for a while, and then it was like, she's like, we're done. And she handed me over to a team, more of a collective, as you call
council,
it.
if you will, yeah.
It was like a kind of a council, and their name was Kenora's son. And I'm like, oh, yes, I got my team. I was so excited. And I was promoting it, and I was telling everyone, and I was just so proud of the fact that I finally got my team. I'm like, yay, it only took how many years? And I was like, this is it. We're in it for the long run. I was like, I'm going to buy the domain name. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, you're getting serious if you're getting the domain name.
Oh, I know. I was literally at that point. And they were good because they brought in my next level of work. Like, they really, guess I should say that, right after the birth of my son was actually quite a life-changing moment. I had a very traumatic birth, and it wasn't exactly at that point of a near-death experience, but it came pretty close. And it was one of the most shocking, traumatizing things that ever happened to me. It was just, childbirth gone wrong. And I actually had a hard time connecting to my intuition and channeling after that. It was like something had changed in me. I had changed. And I couldn't channel for a year. I was also incredibly tired because I had a baby that didn't sleep. But I could not channel for a year. And then when I finally could a year later, everything was different. Everything had changed. This is, Mother Mary came in shortly after that. And it was like my work got focused. Before I would just channel whatever, whoever. And suddenly it was like the work became sort of focused on gifts, purpose, path, the spiritual path, and this kind of thing. And I was like, oh, wow, this is getting serious here. And so when this collective came in, they're like, we're going to take that to the next level. And it's like, we're going to help people really open this and expand this even further. So they really brought in a good sort of foundation of my work. And I was like, that's the thing, we're here forever. So I'm channeling along, and this is back in, I think, 2021. I'm about to get ready for a client session, and I'm calling them in, and they're like, oh, we're just coming in to say goodbye. I'm like, goodbye? What do you mean goodbye? I have a client in 15 minutes. And they're like, no, we've taught you all you need to know. You can do this. We've showed you how to do this. You know how to do this. You've been doing this. We've just been like training wheels. We've just been like holding on to the back of your bike. You're already doing this. You're fine. You don't need us anymore. I'm like, but I do. I need that name, that collective. And poof, they were gone. And I was like, I got a client. What am I going to do? So, obviously you panic when your team just bails on you. So then I was channeling my higher self because it was like, well, no one else is showing up to the table, so I guess it's my higher self. Oh, it's just my higher self.
Sure.
So I was channeling my higher self, and I realized they were right. I actually was perfectly fine channeling my higher self, and I don't channel my higher self now. I'll get into that, but one of the things I learned in hindsight is that while some people, their teams are here to do the work, their councils is bringing through valuable information, the whole purpose of my journey was, with all of those different guides and stuff, is they were really helping me, teach me how to do it myself.
Right.
And that was it at the end of the day. And help me do it myself and access this myself and do the things that channelers do with these teams without the teams myself. So from higher self, I learned that there's so much more beyond the higher self. From the higher self, what's above our higher self? We have our divine I am presence. So it kind of moved into the I am presence, and then it moved beyond that all the way up to source. So if you ask me now who I channel, I say it's called source intelligence. It's more of a what than a who, which is interesting. How do you channel a what, Yolanda? But I kind of see it like this. Source intelligence is, another way to say it is a bit like the oneness. It's the thing that kind of, it's the intelligence that is everything in the universe. It's the thing that connects it all together. I see it kind of like a library. A giant library of information that we all
You're in the cloud.
can access.
You've plugged into the cloud.
I'm plugged
In
into
the spiritual.
cloud.
You're plugged into the spiritual cloud. Got it. I understand. I
Exactly.
understand completely. It's the Akashic records. It's all knowledge. It's everything and all of
Yeah.
it. It's access to it. So when you ask a question, the answers come pretty quickly to you. Okay.
Exactly.
First of all, one of the most fascinating journeys and humorous journeys I've had on the show for a channeler. So thank you for making me laugh and sharing all of that with us, because it's been very, very funny. So can we start doing a little bit of a channel? Can we bring in source energy?
Yep.
And I got some interesting questions.
Good. I like
it,
questions.
For it or what or I don't know.
It, what, who, whatever. Even
Exactly.
I just know that.
Does it have a name, by the way? Does it refer to a name or no?
I just call it source intelligence. And
All right.
it's like yeah, like you said, like downloading a.
Does it have jokes?
Oh, it does make jokes sometimes.
Okay.
Depends on the audience. I think it depends on what the audience needs. For some people, it's quite lighthearted, and some people it can be very serious. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be serious today.
Okay.
Given the energy
of our conversation.
going so far.
I'm not going to walk in very, very serious at this point. Well, hopefully we can get some good information out for the audience.
Yes.
And then what's your process? You just take a few breaths and then.
So my process is to, basically take a few breaths and let the energy in. And I kind of feel like it drops in and it just moves all the way through down into the earth. And I kind of just step off to the side and listen. I used to go completely away where I was kind of off with the fairies or whatever, and I would never remember anything. But I didn't do that for very long because I actually am really interested in hearing what's being said, because I find it interesting. I don't always understand it, but so I've never. Yeah, so these days I'm just kind of here listening.
Yeah.
And
So I promise it won't be 6 hours.
No.
So
it won't be 6 hours.
it won't be 6 hours. I promise that. So whenever
But
you.
I can't guarantee that the answers themselves are going to take 2 minutes either. They tend
I
to be
know.
quite detailed.
So I will guide and make sure it doesn't go past a certain time. Don't worry.
Thank you. Sounds
Just for
good.
your sake. Thank you, my dear.
Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Whenever you're ready, we are happy to take your first question.
Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. What is life like for a soul on the other side when it's not incarnated?
Oh, very interesting question. Now, we have to kind of break this into two parts because, well, we have souls that are, well, everyone has a soul, and everyone has an aspect or a part or a greater part of their soul that is always on the other side, no matter what. So we have these parts of us that are always permanently 24/7, get rid of time. It's just always on the other side. But then we have choices and we decide, I'd like to come to Earth and be a female or be a male and stay for a while or a long while or a short while. So we choose to come, and yet the entire time there is a part of our soul that stays on the other side. So when you ask the question of what is life like on the other side, it really okay, well, we could say that we so often are incarnating, and if not here on Earth at this time, well, perhaps in other places, spaces, times, dimensions, we are also incarnating. It is a bit like managing a roster of staff, so to speak, where, okay, we're going to send Yolanda down to Earth, and we're going to send this other part of Yolanda over here at this time, at this planet, this place. So there's a lot of movement, per se, but if we go back to the part of our souls that are on the other side, so to speak, it is managing things, but as well as it is connecting to things. It is giving us, it is connecting to information. It is connected to information. It is. It's just about how well the soul down on the planet, or sorry, the person down on the planet is able to connect to that information. It is a little bit more difficult for some than it is for others. If you're watching this, it's probably because you're interested in connecting more to that soul on the other side. But to answer your question, because we keep going off topic, what is life like for the soul on the other side? To which we say, it is incredibly filled with love, connection, peace, and we want to say joy, but it's not just joy. If anything, we say there is an element of neutrality, as in yes, there are moments of feeling joy. Yes, there are moments of feeling various things, but there is the sense of being much more understanding, and there's a part of us that has a much bigger picture, much more expanded awareness of things, and is not necessarily on a higher soul level getting triggered per se, or but is able to sort of feel all the feelings and see all the things and have a greater understanding. But at the same time, on the other side, there is this very liveliness, as in there is connection. There is, I am happy to see you. I have not seen you, the soul, for some time. There is the sense here of being able to connect instantly. Instantly, we say. When you are on the other side, it is just simply a thought, and you are there. You are connecting. You are meeting someone else, which for some souls coming to this planet at this time who are more used to that energy, or who have spent more time in that place, coming to this very slow planet, which for many of us it feels like slow. This place is not slow. It is fast. It is getting even faster, but for some souls that are new to this planet is actually very slow. Things don't happen in an instant. A person doesn't just show up in front of you when you think of them. There is the sense here of things take time. You gotta get in the car, you gotta drive there. You can't just teleport in an instant. So there's a very different reality on the other side than there is here. And it is just so much easier to be connected and to feel connected and to know. The connecting is the connection to all that is innate with the soul on the other side. It is the human down here that has seemingly lost that connection, or disconnected from that, or doesn't know where to look, or doesn't know how to experience that, yet it needs to do some work to expand into that, or grow into that, or become more aware of that, if this makes sense. We feel like we didn't necessarily do the greatest job of explaining life on the other side, but at the same time, we say it is something that when we go back to the other side, it is the most natural thing ever, as in this is where I belong. This is where I've always been. This is just, we don't really want to say home, but it's more like this is who I am. This is who I am. And that's it. Does this make sense?
It does make sense. I appreciate that answer. Now, do we plan our life on the other side before we incarnate? And if we do we have help doing it?
Okay, this is an interesting question because we feel this is a soul by soul situation. Now, some souls are very much like, I have an intention. I'm going to this earth to do this thing, and this is what I'm doing, and I need some help to keep me on track and to keep me focused. And I need some things, some catalysts to ensure I do this thing, and I'm choosing this deliberate place, space, time, country, male, female. There is, for some, a lot of planning that takes place. And for others, I feel like I just need an experience, and I need to leave it more open, because I need to leave it more open because I want to experience not so much the helplessness, because we always have teams and guides around us, but I want to experience more feeling separate, feeling alone, feeling disconnected, and seeing how I respond personally without the greater care and support of the spirit world, sending me signs and making things, helping to ensure certain things happen at certain times. So there's a bit of fluidity and flexibility here, in the sense that some of us definitely plan these lives out, and if you try to step off, it's like the spirit world goes, no, we're getting you back on track. Something happens where maybe if you really want to go to the left, well, something will stop you, a traffic accident, or something will stop you to kind of make you go to the right. Maybe you're disappointed, like, oh, I really wanted to go to the left, and universe, how could you not help me manifest the left? And the universe is going, because you were always meant to go right, you just didn't see that yet. So there is a lot of divine intervention, but quite often it doesn't look the way we are hoping or intending, because we don't necessarily see the bigger picture. We don't see the bigger reality, so to speak. That being said, we also have souls that come here that want to leave things open, more just because of the experience that they are choosing to have. Does this make sense?
It does. It does. Now, with that line of questioning, why would a soul choose to incarnate into an abusive life, or into a body that has disease or physical deformity of some sort?
Okay. There are various reasons for this. Now, we want to say reason one. Sometimes a challenge, such as let's go with a disability or a disease. Let's go with a disability. Well, let's just say for a moment that you can't see. You're born blind. You have a disability. Well, what happens when you can't see? Your other senses get stronger. Your hearing gets stronger. Your feeling gets stronger. You learn to navigate the world differently. You are able to develop, thanks to the one particular handicap, you are able to, almost forced to in a way, develop other ways of navigating life. And perhaps you need all of your senses, and maybe you're very, very good at one sense. Maybe you're an incredible seer. Through many lifetimes, you're an incredible seer, and you're like, oh, I'm such a good seer, I rely on my seeing, and I can't hear. And it's like, well, how about we disconnect the seeing for a while to develop the hearing? And so there's that one aspect of some of us come with certain disabilities to help us learn something or develop something else. Or perhaps there is something along the lines of surrender, because maybe we are being forced to surrender into something and allow something else, something different, something greater to come in, because we are forcing or pushing things in a certain way. Now, we're talking here about, disabilities and illnesses. Now, that's sort of one end, is to develop other skills. There's another sort of a section here, is some souls have an agreement to, for example, because some illnesses, let's put it this way, are genetic. They're handed down. Oh, I have this illness, my mother had this illness, her mother had this. And quite often we inherit these illnesses so as to, for some souls, to shift those illnesses and to ultimately heal those illnesses out of the family for future generations, such that it's like, the illness ends with you, and you may not cure it completely, but a lot of the story behind the illness, or a lot of the reason for the illness itself, ends with you. So some people are here to ultimately put a stop to things, to change how things go into the future. So there's another element, but when you kind of go down to the abusive side of things, or the trauma side of things, well, that's a different story, because those are difficult situations. And as much as we would love to say we choose our reality, and therefore we choose this, we don't always choose this. That's the thing. We all have free will on this planet, and maybe we choose a particular experience. I choose to maybe incarnate into a household that isn't the most peaceful. But remember, here on Earth, we all have free will. We all have the capacity to decide what we're going to say when we're going to say it, what we're going to do, and what we're going to not do. And so sometimes, even though we don't choose these situations, they still happen. It's not that we're being punished. It's not that we've done anything wrong. It's not that it's your fault. It's not your fault. We all have free will. Things happen. It is about how you choose to handle what happens. And we say it a bit like this. Some people will have something bad happen to them, and they'll walk around like, poor me. Poor me. I've had this terrible thing happen. And yes, you did. We completely acknowledge that. But other people will take that situation and go, okay, that was really, really hard. That created a lot of trauma. I did not enjoy that. But why did that happen? And more importantly, how can I change so that my future isn't a repeat of the same thing? That I can have a better future. I can heal. And also, what gems, what gifts come from the situation? Quite often we see this. Many people who've had a traumatic experience have a deep compassion, a deep understanding of what it's like to be in that situation, and how it feels to be in that situation, and how alone they felt, or how difficult it was. They develop a sense of compassion for others. When they come across someone else who's been in the same situation, there is a connection. We are the same. I did that. I went through that. You went through that. There's a sense here of being able to relate to each other, not to the whole boohoo, this happened to me, although that does happen. It is more the sense here of I went through that and I came out the other side. Let me help you, because I've been there. There is that compassion, there is that recognition, there is that understanding of what it's like. And for so many of us on this planet, we feel disconnected. We feel alone. It is something that is so prevalent in this society. People can have so many friends and be super social and feel alone and feel not understood and feel disconnected. And then when you've got a certain situation that has happened to you that you think no one else would understand, and along comes someone who's been through that themselves, it brings about a cohesion, a sense of, I'm not alone. It brings about a sense of connection. And so what we're trying to say here is that sometimes these bad things happen to you to help you to grow, to help you to expand, because you would never have changed. Back up. Quite often, these bad traumatic things are catalysts for change. I do not want that anymore. I do not like that anymore. Things have to change. I need to change. Decisions are made that change your life as a result of those traumatic experiences. Perhaps we choose to move to another city or another country, or perhaps we choose to change a particular situation or learn a particular situation as a result of what we've been through. And as a result of that, we so often are then able to connect to those, and connection is the key here. So often, and connection is the first step in healing. When we can connect, when we feel connected to, when we feel understood, when we feel someone understands us, gets us, we feel safe enough to let go of the trauma. And so we're not saying people are incarnating here to have these traumatic experiences just so that they can, relate to those who've had it. It's not like that. But so often growth comes. People are able to, because of their traumatic experience, better help others grow and move through it and heal. Healing is the key, because there's a lot of healing happening on this planet. We don't know if you've noticed or not. Well, we assume you've noticed. But, there was a lot more trauma that happened years ago. There was a lot more abuse, child abuse. And you only have to go back in history about 200 years and you see children working in factories and children's slave labor and all of these different things. Our history has had some very dark periods, and there's been a lot of awareness that's come up, and things have changed, and things are rapidly increasing. There is a lot more awareness that that's not okay anymore. You can't do that anymore. That isn't appropriate. And really, as a society in general, we are healing. And so sometimes it takes someone who's been there and done that and moved through it to be able to help others going through it, so as to stop the pattern, so as to put a stop to it, so as to really help heal this planet. Because ultimately this planet is healing. And the more people that are stepping into the roles of, that was crap, I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through, I want to help change the reality, change things, are ultimately helping and contributing to the healing of this planet. Does that answer your question?
It does. It was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. I think you mentioned this in a prior answer, but I'm going to ask this question. Can a soul live multiple lives at once?
Absolutely. And this happens. This is absolutely. Now, you may have heard the concept that time is a human invention, so to speak, like the calendar and this and that, because ultimately we do. If we were to connect in up through our higher self into our up to our soul, we find that we're not just a simple I am Yolanda and I am one soul. For example, you, Alex, are connected into what we want to call an oversoul. A monad is another way of explaining this. And if you were to look at the monad has the capacity to split isn't really the right word, but you get what we're trying to say. I'm trying to paint a picture. It's like split. Okay, we're gonna send a part of you over here and over there and over here, and we'll, according to our human clocks and calendars. Well, I'm here in the year 2023, but I've also had a past life, in the 1800s and another one in the 1400s. Quite often, some of these are happening simultaneously, as in the 1400s lifetime and the 2023 lifetime are actually happening at the same time. But there's a connection but a disconnection, as in we're not necessarily aware that's happening right now because, well, it's 2023, not 1400s, so to speak. But the point we're trying to make is, as an oversoul, we have many extensions. And some of these extensions are able to incarnate or are incarnating in various places, spaces, times, dimensions, planets, forms, and yet other parts of these extensions, so to speak, are not incarnating. They are simply up there in spirit and having a rest, so to speak, or are busy doing some work helping to oversee some of the other extensions that are incarnating. And so we're very busy as a soul, and we've got a lot going on, and there is a reason for this. And honestly, we are bigger than we can imagine. We are far bigger than we can imagine. And when I say we mean I as a soul. I, the soul, am far bigger than I can imagine. I am far more complex than I can imagine. And as you can imagine, we as a human, we come here, and so often we have a reason for being here. We have a purpose. We're here to achieve something. Let's go back to that lifetime we said as a disability where you can't see, and you're developing your other senses, and you're learning to balance out your senses and sort of develop new skills through practical real-life application of being on this planet. If we were to come back to the oversoul here with all of the extensions, the oversoul itself has a kind of a greater purpose of something it's trying to achieve, something it's working towards, something it's expanding itself, it's growing, it's expanding itself. And as a result of this, it does have some things it needs to learn. It does have some blanks it needs to fill in. And therefore, along comes the extensions. We're sending this one to Earth. We're sending this one to, Pleiades. And so we have these different ones having these different experiences that are all contributing to the overall growth and expansion of the soul itself. Now, some of these extensions, maybe let's just put one here on Earth, 2023, and the other one in 1400s. Maybe they're have completely different stories playing out, completely different realities. Maybe one's a male, one's a female, one's a farmer, the other's a business executive. They're living very different lives. But they're also, having experiences that are all contributing to the greater whole. Which is why if you go digging into your past lives, you may find, no, you weren't always a filmmaker in every single lifetime. That's obviously not practical. But that you've had a variety of lifetimes where you've been in different places and spaces and careers and jobs and situations, and it's varied because as a soul we love, oversoul speaking, as a soul we aren't narrow-minded in the sense of I just want to do one thing. It's like I want to experience something greater. I want to experience this. I want to experience that, because the more we experience, the more we learn. And the more we learn, the more we understand. And the more we, as a soul, oversoul, can expand. So hopefully that answer is clear enough and makes sense, because the point we're trying to make here is that the soul, the oversoul, is far greater than we can comprehend. It is far more complex than we can comprehend, and yet it is very simple. Does this make sense?
It does make wonderful sense. Thank you so much for that answer. Why did we, at this time, incarnate at this time in history right now?
This is a good question. And it has been approached from many different perspectives. We would like to share a perspective. When we look at history, the ball started speeding up. The ball started rolling. It was almost as if you can picture a mountain for a minute. Let's just use the metaphor of a mountain. Historically speaking, on this planet, it felt like trying to push a rock up a mountain. Things were very slow. Things were very hard. Things were very challenging. Not much changed. Not much changed. But there was a shift where it's like, we've hit the peak. We can change. We can start going downhill. Oh, look, the rock is going faster and faster and faster, and this is great. We are finally making progress. And that's the key. This planet is ready for progress. And so all of the souls coming to this planet are here to contribute to this progress and are here to contribute to the changing nature of this planet. It is a time of rapid acceleration and rapid growth, and there are certain things you can only learn, going back to that oversoul experiential thing, there are certain things you can only really truly experience when things are going fast. You know, if you're in a farmer working the same fields where you don't meet a lot of people and not much changes over the course of 50 years, there isn't a lot of growth happening. There isn't a lot of inner change. There isn't a lot of things that challenge our perceptions and challenge our belief systems and challenge us to grow. But right now, as we said, that boulder is rolling down the mountain and things are getting faster. It's moving faster. We're having to, some of us are having to run to keep up with it. Like, wait for me, I can't keep up. Because the momentum is building. Things are speeding up. And that boulder, by the way, has not reached the bottom yet. It's nowhere near the bottom. Meaning, where we are now here in 2023, it is only going to get faster. The more and more things change, the more things are going to change. Things are going to continue to accelerate. But this is a good thing, because sometimes when things go fast, we can do so much more. With the energy and the momentum, we can do more, we can shift more, we can change more, and we can do it fast. So it doesn't have to be years of struggle and years of strife and years of pain and years of not much moving. And we feel that things are more and more and more going to be revealed, going to be changed, going to be upgraded, updated. And yeah, there's still going to be problems on this planet. Yeah, there's still going to be issues, you know. Let's just use the whole boulder going down the mountain analogy. There's going to be little rocks and juts sticking out and things that are going to kind of try to trip up the boulder and kind of make the boulder go, ouch, there was a big sharp thing there. Oh, ouch, that hurt. We need to deal with that. There's still going to be problems. There's still going to be challenges, and it's not just going to be smooth sailing down the mountain, because it's not. It's going faster. It's not a smooth path. It's a jagged, rough path. There are sharp bits. But as we get faster, we are able to move through it faster. And there's a lot more support growing by the day, because part of the going faster, you know, it was fueled by things like, for example, the internet, where there's a lot more connection, worldwide connection, global connection, collective connection, where you're having more and more souls going, that's not okay, that needs to change. And as a result, the energy behind things, the culture around things is changing. And in some cases it's changing a little slower, and in some cases it's changing very, very fast, to the point that older generations are going, I just can't keep up with it anymore. It's just moving too fast even for me. Does this make sense?
It makes perfect sense. This makes perfect sense. Thank you. And my final question is, do you have any last words for my audience?
We would like to share a piece of advice. And we're going to quote the words of Gandhi, we believe the name is, be the change. And we want to explain more, be the change, because we feel this is a very key thing. Now, being the change isn't just like, oh yeah, I'm different. No, being the change isn't just acknowledging you're different. Being the change means making a conscious decision to change, to do things better. For example, maybe you're having a difficult relationship with someone and they trigger you a lot and you're upset, like, this person, they just make me so upset, and you're off venting to your friend about how difficult this person is. Be the change. Go look at why that person triggers you. Go look at why this situation upsets you. Ask the big questions. Why am I getting upset? Why am I reacting this way? Don't look at them. They're just a mirror to something deeper in yourself. And go, okay, why am I reacting this way? Why am I doing this? How can I change so that I don't keep reacting? Okay, I'm working through this. I'm understanding there's some, maybe this is how I've learned, or maybe this is what I was taught to do, or whatever. The more we go in and ask those introspective questions around how can we shift this situation? How can we heal from this? How can we change? We change. And the more we change, the more we are on a greater scale, shall we say, activating the energy of change. Because the more of us that change, the more that ball is building up the momentum, like this is changing, that's changing, we have more space to move. And the other thing, the reason why our advice is to be the change is because the more you take responsibility for your own stuff and choose to change, you have the capacity to become more, right? We say it like this: when you shift those triggers and come to a peaceful place, you are in a better place and space to be able to explore more, explore your passion, open to more things, become more of who you are, develop yourself, become a better version of yourself. Because the more you become a better version of yourself, the more you can inspire others, the more you can support others, the more you can connect with others in a way that perhaps you could not before. But the more we all change, for the greater good, that is, for the greater good, the better this planet is going to become, the faster this planet is going to change in a way that it actually gets better and better and better. But it all starts with us. And it starts with us asking those big questions. Why do I feel the way I do? Why do I truly, truly feel this way? How can I change myself so that I can be a better person? Stop pointing fingers. We know not all of you do point fingers, but the more you take those fingers and come back to yourself and see that just as a mirror, or see that as something that's trying to show you something or teach you something. Maybe it's not an exact reflection. Maybe it's not a reflection at all, but maybe it is triggering you to go in a different direction or do something else. The change starts with you. Some angel isn't going to appear out of the sky and just change you. It doesn't happen like that. Change starts from within. We have to want it. We have to ask for it. Our angels, our teams, our guides, they can support us, but we have to want it first. That is our message. We thank you for your time and send you many, many blessings and lots of love, and say goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Wow, they are energetic.
Yeah, they are. It's definitely energetic.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm used to this. It's this is how it is. Lots of energy.
Yeah,
Get a bit blasted.
They
Get a
are.
bit blasted.
Yeah, they are pretty much like a shotgun. It just keeps it just keeps coming. It keeps coming, and
Yeah.
profound and profound and profound. And the funny thing is that people, again, when they look at channelers, they just say, "Oh, they're faking it," or they memorize stuff. I'm like, you didn't know the questions I was going to ask you, first of all.
Nope.
These
Yep.
were not easy questions to answer.
No, they were not easy questions at all. And some of these questions I've never been asked in my life. So
Because
there
they're
you go.
questions, I call them minefield questions, because you're just
Yes.
you can step on something really, and that's why I ask these kind of really difficult questions,
Absolutely.
because these are questions that people want to know, and I want to kind
Mhm.
of put that information out there. And it's, by the way, one of the toughest ones about why we choose to be in an abusive situation or
It's hard.
traumatic. That was probably one of the best answers I've heard to that question. It was very beautiful, poetic, and very relatable and understanding of why we do choose that. And hopefully that helps someone listening who is in those situations. Because, like
Yeah.
I've talked about on my show before, about my traumatic experience, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
here without it.
Oh, I'm the same. I mean, I had a very tumultuous relationship with my very Pentecostal father, whose attitude was, well, yes, these bad things happened, but I asked God for forgiveness, and God's forgiven me, so you need to forgive me too. I'm like, but that doesn't change
That
what
doesn't work.
happened.
I haven't spoken to God. That's between you and God. This is between you and me, Dad.
And he's like, well, maybe you need to, let Jesus into your life. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. And so, yeah, I had a very challenging, and in my 20s, part of the reason I left Canada and moved overseas was to get away from that abuse. And so that I could heal from that abuse. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was so traumatized, I would not have sought out healing. I would have just been developing this channeling thing of, I'm just being a channeler. But actually, my work isn't just channeling. It really, I needed a lot of healing, which opened the doors for me to learn healing. And I would have never gone down that path if it wasn't for the fact that I needed so much healing. And yes, I channel, but I combine the channeling with healing because ultimately, we've all had our struggles and challenges, and some of us more than others.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are a ball of energy, Yolanda. Thank you so much. I mean, you are so wonderful. You're just like a spark of life on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all of my guests.
Sure.
What is your definition of living a good life?
A life that's been lived. When we have these dreams, but actually like going out and making them happen. Like a life that's been lived, experienced, and have your cake and eat it too. Don't just think about it or dream about it, but actually take steps to make it happen. So that when you're 85 years old, you'll be like, I'm good now. I did all those things. That's a good life. It's a life that's been lived.
What is your definition of God?
I feel God is everything and everyone and everywhere, and God is all things.
And what is the ultimate purpose of life?
To have an experience. Depending on, ultimately the experiences are all going to be different, but we are here to have an experience. And I do believe that is the reason we come here. We don't come here to just put on headphones and just tune out the world and pretend that we're not here. We come here to have an experience.
And where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
My website, yolandatong.com.
And do you have any final words for our audience?
Good question. I feel like I said them in the channeling. Okay, final words. Be yourself. And I say this because for years I hid who I was.
Yep.
I was the weird channeler. I was the weirdo. Like I didn't fit in. I wasn't cool. I did this weird channeling thing where I flapped my hands and was this. And yet, when I finally acknowledged that and really started to own that, my life changed. My life got a lot better. People started coming into my life. I connected with people. I made amazing friends. But when I was hiding myself, no one was really seeing who I was. And I was lonely. So my advice is be yourself. Someone out there is going to love it. Probably more than someone out there is going to love it. In fact, you're probably going to draw in a crowd because the more you are yourself, the more you're authentic and you're genuine, and that speaks louder than any story, any mask, anything we pretend to be that we're not. Being our true, genuine, authentic self is the most amazing thing you can possibly do. And I know it's scary to be yourself. Look at me. I'm a prime example. But I do believe the more you choose and decide and work on changing yourself so that you become yourself and not a version of yourself that you want the world to see, the better your life is going to get. That's my final message.
Yolanda, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your gift with us and for everything you're doing in the world. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thanks to you because I know you're doing